Hello, I'm Frank Evans, the film editor of the Warwick Boar, and today I'm talking to Emily Skeggs, star of the new film Dinner in America, available on streaming services across the United Kingdom starting on the 1st of June. Emily, how are you?
I'm so happy. I'm so
Brilliant.
excited folks are getting to see this movie. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Yes.
Great.
I thought I'd ask you first, what attracted you to the project?
Uh, well, the movie was first pitched to me as sort of like a Napoleon Dynamite but punk style movie, and I love Napoleon Dynamite. I'm super attracted to that kind of character. I love characters where you kind of think you know them and then they really surprise you. And to me, that's kind of what jumped off the page in terms of Patty. She's someone who everyone sort of has written off and thinks like, oh, she's just that weirdo. She's not really capable of much. She can't really do much. And that really has like affected her and um, beaten her down. And so when she meets Simon, someone who's so like unapologetically himself, it's really liberating. And I think I just hadn't really seen a love story like that before where, these two characters by the end of the movie are still themselves, but they've changed each other in really impactful and like positive ways. It's not like Patty goes from being a weirdo to some like supermodel. She's still very much her at the end of the movie. She's just gained a confidence and a self-worth, I guess. She's learned her value, and to me, I really wanted to be a part of something um, that had that message, and to play a character so interesting and bizarre and also so like kind of close to me and who I was growing up trying to kind of figure out who I am and what I'm here to do.
Did you take any of your sort of personal history into Patty's connection with the music of the time, the sort of Riot Girl scene?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely was a little bit of a late bloomer and an oddball growing up, and I've always been super attracted to sort of like the hardcore beat of things, and I think like the hardcore beat of life in general. I grew up in New York City, and so I kind of grew up seeing some pretty bizarre stuff from a pretty young age, and just kind of like the spectrum of what the world has to offer. I mean, it's all there in New York, and it's hardcore, and it's loud, and so that's kind of always been in my DNA, I guess. Even though I don't look like someone who would go like mosh necessarily or like rock out, like I love Nine Inch Nails. I love that. There's something about like the release of hardcore that I really like. I'm attracted to. It's
Right.
almost like ASMR in a sense. Like it's so loud, but it like I don't know, it calms me.
Oh, well, I definitely went through my teenage years listening to the Downward Spiral more than once. So,
Oh, it's so good. It's
yeah.
so good. And there's part of me that wants to rage like that, like I want to scream, and I don't think I do that very often. So it's cathartic for sure.
Brilliant. Do you think that Patty saw Simon as a kind of liberatory force in her life then? Is that why she was attracted to him in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think she's, when we meet her, everyone's telling her who she is, everyone's telling her what to do, and I think that's part of what's attractive about Simon is he's so unapologetically himself. He knows what he wants, maybe to a fault, but by the end of the movie they balance each other out so beautifully. Patty finds herself. They find themselves in each other through music in a way that so exciting. And
Mm.
Kyle and I and Adam, the director, like we really became this really beautiful trio. There was a lot of trust and love there from the beginning, and I kind of just want to make everything with them now.
Brilliant. Uh, Throughout the film, especially towards the beginning, we see that Patty is basically bullied and tormented by a lot of people in her life, particularly those two really horrible bullies on the bus. How did it
Yeah.
feel playing a character who's just treated so terribly by the world and that people are going to really sympathize with?
I wasn't treated that terribly growing up, but I definitely felt that. And for me it was kind of scary at first. I was like, this is a really vulnerable, like I'm bringing to life a kind of like a part of me that uh looking back, that it's kind of embarrassing, you know, like I was very awkward, I didn't know who I was. And to kind of go back there and put that skin on again and realize that there are so many aspects of Patty that I actually really value and that I could use more of in my life today was really cathartic. You know, like she's so open and she's so perceptive, and she might be a little functioning a little bit slower than everybody else, but it's because she's taking in the world and really feeling everything. And I think that that kind of slowing down and that like openness is something I've really embraced. And also just like I've personally found a huge confidence in my own weirdness as like a positive. You know, the people who are outliers and the weirdos in the world are the ones who push forward progress and are the ones who make change. If we're all just going with the same old thing, wearing the same old thing and being the same old person, nothing's going to change. And you know, I think it's important that we recognize people who may seem a little different from us. That's a value. That's a positive. That's how we expand our horizons and expand our own like love for ourselves and our own perspectives. I think that's important. I love being like surprised by something and changed by something in an impactful way.
Right. Well, you mentioned change and surprise. I think that a surprise as the film goes on is the change that Patty's character undertakes, so that by the end, she's so much in line with Simon that she's really lashing out at the people that used to be so horrible to her. It's a real
Mm.
clear growth of character for her. Did you enjoy playing
Mm.
someone who really learns that they don't have to take it anymore?
I loved it. I loved it. It was such a gift to me personally. You know, I think I definitely see the world really different. And I also think I think twice about judging someone when I meet them. Like you never really know who someone is until you really get to know them. And, you know, there are lots of ways we can kind of come at meeting someone with preconceived notions. And I think it's important to really blow up those notions and just really take people for who they really are and knowing that they have value and knowing that they have something to offer.
Do you have a personal favorite memory of the shooting of the film?
Oh gosh. Um I mean, truly the whole thing was like summer camp. We lived together, we ate together, we loved every minute of it. I'd say probably my favorite memory was I think the trajectory of writing the song with Adam, which you know, so in most films, you kind of just show up on the day and you're like, all right, this is the character I've developed. This is the character you've developed. Let's figure out how to make it work. But with this film, we had 2 weeks of rehearsal before we even started shooting, which was a gift. And I hope and pray that every project I get to work on moving forward does that because it really gives you the opportunity to get to know the people you're working with, find a common language, and like agree upon what where these characters are, who they are, where they are at the beginning, the catalysts within the story that push them to where they get to in the end. And I just found that so invaluable. But what we also did was, I think on like the second day, third day or something, Adam and I sat down in this room and I'd been writing like this stream of consciousness Patty poetry to kind of get in her head. And I brought those lyrics and we wrote the song, the watermelon song that I sing in the movie, on like the third day together. And it was a huge leap of trust for Adam and the producers to not have had that song pre-written by a musician. You know, everyone was sort of like, what's the song going to be? That was the big question in pre-production. And so it really kind of kicked off this incredible sense of collaboration with the movie. You know, Adam really cared about our personal takes on these characters and really trusted us and gave us a lot of room to bring ourselves and to make these characters really, really specific and us. So I guess that was my favorite memory because it just kind of kicked off you know, I was scared to write a song. I've never written a song before. And so in that moment, I just kind of knew. I was like, oh, Adam really has our backs. And he really cultivated a trust and a respect from day one. That was really beautiful and really collaborative. And then from there, the movie just kind of took off, and now we're a little trio, and we love each other so much. It's funny, like we usually do interviews like with the three of us, and so it's funny to do one just alone because I'm like, where are my friends? Like, where are my guys? Like, we usually all have each other's back, so I miss them.
It's interesting because time and again, the scene where the song is written between the two of you comes up as a favorite memory for pretty much everyone.
Oh,
who
really?
worked. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah.
Could I ask, did you take any inspiration from past performances in films for your role as Patty? Did you look at anyone else's work and take inspiration from it?
Adam had kind of alluded to like a bit of a Rocky vibe, which was super fun. I definitely took a little bit of that. I think I've been really obsessed with actors like Frances McDormand, who really bring like a rawness and a realness and an honesty to their characters. And so for me, I'm constantly just trying to drive towards honesty. So yeah, I thought a lot about Frances McDormand in making this movie, especially too in the way that she's so unapologetically her, and kind of doesn't he like doesn't give a shit about what she looks like. You know, she shows up to award shows in jean jackets, and I love that. Like, so for me, that's kind of what I'm trying to cultivate, and that's the kind of like actor and character that I really was thinking about when making this movie.
It's interesting that Frances McDormand, more recently with films like Three Billboards and Nomadland, really has embraced that sort of rawness.
Yeah, yeah. She really has, and I think that that is definitely something that comes with age, and that I'm grateful that I played Patty a little bit later in life than maybe like had I been in that time in my life when I felt most like her, I wouldn't be able to have that perspective. You know, it would be something that would be vulnerable in a way that I don't think I necessarily would have been able to dive so deep into.
Now, talking with Carl Gellner yesterday, he mentioned the fact that the opening 20 minutes of the film, which are quite harsh and quite shocking, captured the fact that a lot of people do have to go through some pretty horrible stuff when they're growing up. So do you think that the sort of the rawness of the film came across? Do you think that was warranted, and do you think it worked?
Yeah, you know, I think it works if you stay. You know, we've had people who decide they don't want to see the movie past the first 20 minutes, and you know, that's their choice, but I think like that's the reality of so many people's lives. You know, we've had so many people at these screenings come up to us say like, that was me on the bus. That I was Patty, and people treated me that way, and to be able to see this movie made me feel seen and like valuable, you know. And to me, that's like the ultimate, that's the ultimate review. You know, like that's why I act, that's why I do this, is like I want people to see a bit of themselves and have their perspectives shifted, and for the positive, you know. So I think the first 20 minutes it's rough, but for so many people that's life. I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily like a spot on representation of America as a whole, but it's a part of our culture that I think that we don't really talk about and we don't acknowledge, and we need to talk about it. And it needs to be seen that bullying and mental health issues are a huge issue, not only in this country, all over the world. And I think it's important to see where these characters are coming from and the world that they have been fighting within, to understand what the connection means to them, what finding each other really means, and how important that connection becomes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the rawness of that does come across. Towards the beginning of the interview, you mentioned Napoleon Dynamite, which the film has been compared to. I was just thinking
Yeah.
now that Patty's character in the film is probably the closest to Napoleon Dynamite of everyone.
Probably. That's so true. Yeah. That's funny.
Even down to the family dynamic, it is very, very much in the vein of that film.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. And kind of like that film too. Like Dinner in America has like something like 76 speaking roles, which for a small independent movie is a wild amount of actors. Like usually there's not more than like 25 in a small indie movie, but for Adam it was really important to build out this world and to uh it almost became like a character piece. Like every single little person that they interact with is very, very important for the ultimate journey that they end up where they end up. So yeah, I just think Adam's like a brilliant, brilliant writer, and he also directed it and edited it, which is amazing.
Absolutely, and all those speaking roles help make the world of the film feel more alive as well. Really.
Right, and a lot of those people were just not actors, just people who live in Detroit. It was wild. The woman on the bus who sits next to Kyle or Simon and like kind of puts the peppermint in her mouth, she was just a lady who was walking down the street, and we were like, "Do you want to be in a movie?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm going swimming, but after that I'll do my hair, and sure, I'll be in your movie." And she was so excited because she'd never been in a movie before, and that role and that moment is one of my favorites in the movie. She's just so happy to be eating her peppermint, and I love that so much. I think that all movies should have non-actors in them at some point, because it just brings like a real, I don't know, a groundedness to the world.
It's like Bresson.
Yeah. Yeah. Or did you see that movie Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson?
No, I haven't, but I hear it's very good.
Yeah, it's amazing. She and the director, this is kind of off topic, but she and the director, she drove around in this van with hidden cameras. The director was in the back of the van where no one could see him, and she was picking up hitchhikers, and they didn't know they were in a movie, and they would just start talking to her, and they didn't know she was an actor. And eventually, if they had good rapport, the director would hop out of the back of the van and be like, "You're in a movie. Do you want to be in a movie?" And some of them said yes. And I love that kind of filmmaking. I think like the more you can imbue the world with like a realness, the better, and the more fun it is,
And it definitely suits this kind of film. This film about small town America. Yeah.
We were very lucky that we had so much of small town America that wanted to be involved.
Oh yeah. So just to wrap up, I wanted to ask, have you got any upcoming projects that you'd like people to know about?
No. This has been a really strange year. I haven't we went to Sundance, and the movie premiered, and it was so amazing and exhilarating. It had such great feedback, and then the pandemic hit, and so everything kind of got put on pause. And I took the opportunity to go back to school. I'm studying horticulture right now, so I'm just really looking forward to the next role that comes my way, that's exciting and challenging, and but also kind of like aligns with my values. And till then, I'll be gardening and hanging out with my plants.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for
thank you,
for doing
Frank.
the interview.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Thank you. I really appreciate your questions.
Thank you.